area where I started working after graduating from high school. Just as I was getting the hang of the job, I caught sight of a woman in a white dress outside the factory one day. I was captivated and approached her.
Excuse me for the sudden interruption. It seems my father's company has been in touch with you.
Turns out, her father was. My name is Jack Thompson, I'm 28 years old. I work at Carter Woodcraft, a local factory that specializes in making wooden molds and models. We're a small crew, just a few dozen folks, but we have tight-knit relationships, not just with our clients but with other local businesses as well. It may be considered outdated by some, but I absolutely love the warm and personable atmosphere of this company. At the forefront of such a strict yet warm atmosphere, this person stands.
Hey Jack. How much longer are you gonna work? Time to grab some lunch.
Saying that, the one who got into the not-so-sleek pickup was our company's president, Ken Carter. He took over this factory from his grandfather, leading us all with his skill and kindness. It was Ken who approached me to work at Carter Woodcraft. About 10 years ago, when I was still a high schooler, I suddenly lost both my parents in an accident. A lot of people came to my parents' funeral, who were local printers, but all I could do was cry in shock and loss. Facing a future that seemed utterly bleak, I had lost everything. No one probably felt they could approach me with my despondent demeanor. But the boss Ken was different.
Hey kid, got any plans after graduation?
He was the only one who talked to me about my future.
I haven't decided anything.
When I murmured that, he said,
Then come to us. Your dad was good with his hands, too. You can do it.
Those words from him were a ray of light in my life. After graduating high school, I joined Carter Woodcraft. There were many ups and downs, but Ken's example always guided me. Perhaps it's time for me to stand on my own 2 feet.
So, you're going to meet Jessica's parents, right?
As we headed to our usual diner, Ken asked gruffly, Yes, next weekend. I'm really nervous. Indeed, I have a fiancée named Jessica. It's been decided that I'll be visiting her parents' place next holiday to formally announce our engagement. My meeting with Jessica was also somewhat orchestrated by Ken. About 2 years ago, as I was getting the hang of my job and starting to be entrusted with various responsibilities. In addition to precision work at the factory, I was also engaging in new sales with our valued customers. None of it was easy, but I still remember the joy of landing a big new contract for the first time. That's when I started thinking about marriage.
When are you getting married?
I'd get asked by Ken and clients alike, and I'd reply, If I meet the one, only to be teased in return. Then, one evening, a woman stopped by the factory. She was in a beautiful dress and a straw hat, which seemed so out of place in this industrial area, like a character out of a movie. Excuse me, is there something you need? I called out, and as she turned around in surprise, our eyes met. In that moment, without any hint of shyness, I thought she was the one. It seemed like just a crush at first, but when I heard her name, I was taken aback once more.
Excuse me for the sudden interruption. My name is Jessica Wilson. It seems my father's company has been in touch with you.
Wait, Wilson. Is that Wilson Furniture? I couldn't help but gawk, and she gave a shy nod in response. Yes, the very first new contract I secured was with Wilson Furniture. It is a well-known, established furniture manufacturer, and it was said to be difficult to forge new contracts with them. However, there had been rumors recently that the company had a change in leadership and was significantly altering its subcontractors. That's when Ken, full of enthusiasm, said,
Jack! Go for it, even if you crash and burn.
He pushed me forward with those words. As a result, I hit it off surprisingly well with the person in charge, and we started a contract. So, What could the daughter of the CEO of Wilson Furniture possibly want with our shop?
I'm sorry to barge in like this, but may I take a little tour? I'm curious to see how the products for our company are made.
Jessica asked so gracefully that I agreed without even getting Ken's permission. Please, feel free to look around as much as you like, I said, beaming with pride as I showed her around the factory. Looking back, it could have been seen as scouting by a subcontractor, and maybe I should have been a bit more cautious. But any worries I had quickly dissipated.
It's amazing! So this is how it's done.
Jessica said, her eyes sparkling with curiosity, not even worrying about her white dress getting dirty. She looked like a school kid on a field trip, and Ken was in a great mood, saying,
She's quite an understanding young lady, isn't she?
Afterward, Jessica explored every corner of the factory and then asked,
Well, could I come again?
Before I could even say, of course, Ken interjected with,
You're welcome anytime. This guy will be your guide.
As he laughed and patted me on the shoulder, which I remember clearly. Since then, Jessica began visiting us more frequently. I started looking forward to her visits, and it was pretty obvious to Ken too. He even went out of his way to book a local renowned restaurant for us. At first, I felt guilty about taking Jessica around, but she revealed.
Actually, I used to visit this town when I was little to see my grandfather.
It turned out that she had lived in this town as a child, but moved to a private school in the city following her father's wishes during her middle school years. She had been away from here ever since, only returning a few years ago after her grandfather passed away. Our shared experiences brought us closer, and we eventually started dating.
Making your boss your Cupid, huh? You've got guts.
Ken teased, but we kept our relationship professional, rarely mixing work and personal life. 2 years after we met, I successfully proposed, and it is time to visit Jessica's family home. That's a necessary step for marriage, of course. The thing is, needless to say, Jessica's father is the CEO of Wilson Furniture. I've never met him through business, but I can easily imagine he's quite strict. It seems Jessica hasn't told him that her partner works at a subcontractor's factory.
I fell in love with you, not caring about the size of the company.
She said that to me. That made me really happy, but I couldn't help being nervous. As the day approached, my anxiety grew. It looks like my jitters didn't go unnoticed by Ken. He advised.
When you meet her folks, be sure to ask respectfully like, May I have your daughter's hand in marriage?
Laughing heartily as he took a big bite of his hamburger, he brushed off my worries. The folks around us chimed in, saying,
What's this, buddy? You're getting hitched.
Marrying into the Wilson family, huh? You're hitting the jackpot, you lucky dog.
Their teasing and support bolstered my spirits. Then came the big day of the introduction. Standing in front of the impressive Wilson residence, I felt completely deflated. All the manners I had drilled into my head started to fade, and all I could think about was Ken's face. If I messed up here and it affected our business deal, I'd never be able to face him.
It's going to be okay, let's go.
Jessica said, guiding me forward, and I stepped over the threshold of the Wilson house. However,
Wait, when you say Carter Woodcraft, isn't that?
In the spacious living room, as soon as I introduced myself, Jessica's father's expression darkened. I honestly shared that I worked at a subcontractor's factory and tried to convey that I wouldn't mix personal and business matters, but I was met with shouts and derision.
Hold on, young man. What makes you think you can discuss marriage as if it's a given? There's no way I'd allow my daughter to marry a man from some lowly subcontractor's factory. This is exactly why I despise country folk.
His sharp, unfamiliar standard language cut deep, and I was left utterly speechless.
Wait, Dad! Why would you say that? Without our subcontractors, our company wouldn't be.
But Jessica's words were quickly cut off, followed by something even more shocking.
The fact is, I've been wanting to move our subcontracting overseas. For now, we're only ordering from familiar faces because of my father. But all this sentimentality is pointless.
Wilson's plans were the complete opposite of the previous CEO's. It seemed he had intended to implement major reforms upon taking over the company, but was met with stronger ties to the subcontractors than expected. It appeared he hadn't given up on his plans, even if they weren't moving forward as he had hoped.
Well, it's only a matter of time. Carter Woodcraft, was it? Let's start by terminating the contract with your place. Consider it punishment for stepping out of line and making moves on my daughter, okay?
Wait, Dad! That's not right.
Jessica. I instinctively stopped her. I was filled with a desire to lash out, but I knew that would only escalate the situation further. Yet, I couldn't just leave Jessica there, apologize profusely, and act as if this never happened. I understand. I'll leave Jessica's decision up to her. Whether Jessica chooses to stay here or come with me. With that, I stood up and left her house. The cold air hit me, and the rush of blood to my head became apparent, bringing me back to a sense of calm. I need to report this to Ken. When I murmured as I was about to take a step forward.
Wait! I'm coming with you.
With Wilson's shouts behind us, the two of us headed towards my factory. Ken, I'm truly sorry. I let my emotions get the better of me. I explained everything and deeply apologized to Ken. Regardless, it was certain that our contract with Wilson Furniture was coming to an end. To repay the kindness Ken had shown me in such a manner. A silence ensued, and then Jessica, who had been quietly listening in the corner, spoke up.
Jack was just.
I'm sorry, Jessica. Could you give us a moment alone?
Ken said, turning away, and with the closing of the door, silence fell again. As I took a step closer to him, intending to apologize again, he spoke.
Jack, if you apologize any further, you're fired.
He turned around with the most serious and intimidating tone I had ever heard from him.
Where's the need to apologize? You, as a representative of Carter Woodcraft, even of this town, did the right thing.
He then squatted down to meet my gaze.
If you had come back here after groveling and leaving Jessica behind, I would have fired you on the spot.
He said that with a smile. That expression was the same as when he first spoke to me at the funeral. All the tension drained from my body, and I collapsed to the floor, overwhelmed with relief, and tears began to flow. Ken teased me for a bit, then called Jessica over and made a rather alarming declaration.
Excuse me, Jessica. Your dad's company might just go under.
Then, she responded with a
Yes.
as if agreeing to some plan. What was about to unfold became clear a few days later.
We deeply apologize to you.
In broad daylight, in front of our factory, a line of men in suits expressed their apology to Ken.
Our company cannot exist without the support of this town's people.
Indeed, lined up were none other than the executives of Wilson Furniture. It was not surprising. After that incident, nearly all the subcontractors working for Wilson Furniture, prompted by Ken's call, sought to halt their dealings. Of course, I was the one who told him about Wilson's plans, but I hadn't anticipated the strength of the community's solidarity. Or rather, I was once again taken aback by Ken's influential reach. A step behind the apologizing executives stood Wilson, who was trying to put on a brave face like a child. He probably never imagined it would come to this. Of course, Ken wouldn't miss such a sight.
Understood well. If you're gonna go that far, then I'll let you work again. But the condition is that the CEO of Wilson Furniture, who's hiding over there, steps down from his position.
For a moment, Wilson looked surprised, but then he quickly put on a confident face and said,
Hold on. Don't get too cocky. Besides, our company and yours have different positions.
He started using the executives as a shield, but then the executives all chimed in.
Yes, sir, of course.
They continued.
We declare that we will rebuild Wilson Furniture to be like it was in the days of the previous generation.
It seemed that even the executives were not satisfied with the current CEO's approach. It's understandable. Wilson is just a man who suddenly took over the CEO position after the previous one passed away. It's not easy for the executives who have grown up in this town to simply change their beliefs. As expected, Wilson seemed to be getting flustered, and he quickly changed his tune.
Sorry, my apologies. All right, upon closer inspection of Carter Woodcraft's work, it's truly remarkable.
Wait! I'm not the one you should apologize.
Ken said that while directing his gaze towards me. Wilson approached me as if he had just remembered me, and then he apologized. But when it comes to his daughter, he seemed to be worried about her not having returned home since then.
I'll allow the marriage with Jessica, but I want her to take on our work.
He said, that's going to be a problem. After all, Jessica is now a valuable asset for us. As I said that and turned to look towards the factory, I saw Jessica, who was wearing work clothes more gracefully than anyone else.
I think sentiments like Dad's mentioned are old-fashioned and inefficient. But there was nothing here that could be dismissed as foolish.
Saying that, she brushed off the wood chips stuck in her hair. When I noticed, the completely alone Wilson, with his face blushed, hastily jumped into his car and drove away as if escaping.
Now everyone, since you're here, please feel free to take a tour of our factory.
Jessica proudly escorted the executives of Wilson Furniture into the factory. Her appearance was vastly different from that day when she wore that white dress, but once again, he was convinced that she was the one. Afterward, Wilson readily stepped down from the position of CEO. However, it seems he was quite regretful, as he started his own company but is struggling with cash flow. On the other hand, as for our company Carter Woodcraft, although we don't have flashy projects, we are steadily expanding our performance. By the way, Ken is tireless, still sweating more than anyone else while taking command as usual.
Let's have lunch soon.
With that voice, everyone returns to the office.
Great job, everyone.
Greeting us with a smile is my beloved wife, Jessica. She's currently pregnant, and she's still managing office work, effortlessly donning work attire better than anyone else.